Hello, West Ham Network. Happy deadline day. It is Holly, and this morning I'm going to be giving a reminder of the players that are out of contract at West Ham United this summer. Now, the big question is whether this needs to play into our transfer strategy as we enter the final day of the January transfer window. There is obviously still time for us to get players in, but with so many key squad players having just 6 months left on their contracts, things are about to change one way or another, and time is running out for us to make a change right now. So let's run through the 9 players that we either need to renew contracts for or find backups for as we prepare to lose them in the summer. Now, first up, we have Angelo Ogbonna. Now, he's played pretty well when he's been called upon, but is it time to bring in new blood? He will be 36 in May. He obviously doesn't get regular game time, and he has made some mistakes this season, as we've seen. He is good behind the scenes, so that is a big positive of having him at the club. So I do wonder whether there could be some kind of sort of behind the scenes coaching kind of role where we could still benefit from that side of his game, but obviously not necessarily on the pitch. Let us know in the comments, obviously, with all of these players, if you agree that we need to renew their contracts, whether you'd like to see them stay at the club, and let us know, obviously, with Ogbonna, whether you'd like to see him stay at the club in a different kind of role. Then Aaron Creswell, he will have been with the club 10 years in summer, but with Emerson as our first choice and Cressy reportedly wanting first team action, unsurprisingly, is it time to bed someone in like Ollie Skulls or buy another left back as backup? We could do it today. Obviously, there haven't really been many rumours in terms of us getting anywhere close with any of that. But on top of this, he is 34, so time is not on his side. Now, Antonio, he has the option for another year, and it was reported back in September that we had triggered this, but there's been no official announcement, as there usually isn't, to actually say that this has been done. We've seen that he can make a difference, and as we continue to struggle to find somebody that offers exactly what he can, we've tried. How many times have we tried to move on from Antonio? Many, many, many times, and every time we failed because our system doesn't really lend into typical strikers. But Bowen is now our first choice striker when he's fit, and Antonio could still be a good impact sub. So there is time until the end of the year that he could bridge that kind of gap. And if we can sign another striker, seeing as we know Ings isn't the future and Mabama doesn't turn out to be the answer, that could be fine if we could just extend that contract for that 1 year. So that'll be another interesting one to see what we can do. Again, we haven't really been linked with any serious people this January, but could it be more of a summer project? Sool, he also has the option for another year, which we have triggered. His agent actually came out and said that he was unhappy, although we'd triggered the extension. He played pretty well, despite a lot of criticism that I've heard just from even sitting at West Ham. Everyone always says that he lacks pace, but he does a decent job of getting back when he needs to. Obviously, he's not like the world-class right back that we would love to have at West Ham, but he has added assists to his game, which is something new. A lot of us do think that right back is a position that we need to strengthen in the summer for us to actually continue improving. The defence is basically the area that we're shaky. When you look at our starting 11, forgetting about backups, in my opinion anyway, the defence is the area, other than Emerson, he's doing really well, where we need to work out what we want to do and whether we want to bring someone in, obviously, short term, or get some youngsters in that could do really well, or start bringing people through the academy. So with us having obviously let Tilo go and Ben Johnson not signing a new contract. We'll talk about that in more detail shortly. The position is definitely one that we do need to focus on. Basically, is Sool the world-class right back and of the age that we want? Probably not for much longer at the age of 31. Then Pablo Fornals. So at the time of recording this, may well have changed since. Fornals has been training at West Ham, and Betis and West Ham are basically struggling to agree on evaluation. As much as it pains me to say it, Fornals just isn't the player that he used to be. Whether he goes this window or stays until his contract runs out, I do feel like it will be a loss to the squad. I've got so many amazing memories of Fornals, and he's a great player when he does play consistently, but we have a pretty set midfield, and therefore we just can't give him the game time that he basically deserves. I feel like he does deserve to start, but just not for us at the moment. His through balls, they've been incredible, but he hasn't really scored enough goals or created enough assists for an attacking midfielder, or for what a lot of us would now expect from an attacking midfielder. When you've got the likes of Kudus, Paqueta, Bowen, simply put, it's going to be really difficult to get into the team, and expectations are very high. And it has been hard for him as well, because we've played him as a winger, haven't we? When he's an attacking midfielder by nature. So he has been played out of position and probably hasn't been given the best opportunity to actually do as well as he could have. But at the same time, I suppose we do have to work with just the tools that we've got. And at the moment, he's not quite what we need. And his passion and his moments against the goal against AZ Alkmaar, they will mean that I've always got such a soft spot for him. And I genuinely feel bad that we don't have space to play him or give him more time for him to even show what he could do in position. And I'd love for him to stay and prove himself again, even if he's a backup option. But will he be happy to do that? Probably not. And he's good enough to start elsewhere, so I would understand if he wants to leave. The difficulty is as well, when we have played him, he hasn't really made enough of an impact when he has come on as a sub. So it makes things very difficult knowing how and when to use him. And if you take the sentimental side of things out of Pablo Fornals, he's not going to fit in our starting 11. And he's currently, as things stand, hopefully it could change, unlikely to make a difference as a sub. Now, Ben Johnson, recently, he played incredibly in midfield, which none of us were expecting to see. I was actually on a live with Anton at the time, and we saw Ben Johnson laughing as he basically told everyone that he was going to be playing in midfield. Me and Anton were absolutely astonished. And then he went on and probably was the best player on the pitch. He just completely livened everything up. He created chances. Very weird, very unexpected. Can he do that again? Don't know. If he can, I'd probably like to see it again. But he has turned down a number of contract offers. And apparently that relates to the amount of game time that we are offering him. It's a very tricky one because we can't guarantee him game time based on his defensive performances. But it's also understandable that he wants more game time. Now, given his versatility, he could be a really great squad player, and he's one that I wouldn't want to get rid of. But is he good enough to be starting? Personally, I'm not convinced. I would love to see him stay, though, because he can play right back, left back, midfield. The problem is, obviously, for him, Emerson is doing amazingly, and Johnson just would not start over Emerson. So another one that it's going to be difficult to hold on to, but if we can, it would be good to keep him there. Third choice keeper, Joseph Anang. He's out of contract in summer, and he's not really had the chance to prove himself for us. Not much has been said about where his future lies at the club, but it's a very tough job to get in ahead of Areola and Fabianski. It's always difficult as a third choice goalkeeper. And if he does want to kick on in his career, a move could look likely, and it would be unlikely that he'd sign a new contract. Divin Mbama, one we've spoken about in many, many different ways over the season. We've been trying to get Mbama to sign a new deal. We've been going back and forth for a while after him rejecting it so far. Transfer Market says there's actually an option for another year, which I wasn't aware of. So he's starting to get more game time, but he has not made the impact that a lot of us had really hoped for. I was one of the ones that was really gunning for him to get game time, and then he's got the game time, and I'm like, it's the same problem we always face with strikers, where they don't really get the ball given to them to prove what they can do. And this first touch has been a little bit shaky, but that does happen, especially when you're trying to bed yourself in the Premier League. It is not easy, and it's not easy for a striker at all to fit into our system. When you've got Bowen, Kudus, Paqueta playing so well, it does really show you up if you're not sort of hitting the ground running massively. For me, it feels like he probably needs a season out on loan and then come back. And at that point, I think he'd probably be more ready. But will he be willing to sign a deal to go out on loan when the future is so uncertain? Another difficult one. And finally, a bit of a different one. Kelvin Phillips, he's on loan from City. We haven't even seen him play yet. So it's a bit of a different one, but he will be obviously heading off at the end of the season. Now, it remains to be seen whether he will make a difference or whether we'll have the option to buy him at a reasonable price if we do want him. So again, massive question mark over Kelvin Phillips, but I couldn't not include him because he is one of the players that will be heading away at the end of the season, unless we change things and make things official. So however you look at it, we've got a fair few players in this list with a lot of experience, and basically it's going to be quite a change at West Ham, and it's going to have a significant impact behind the scenes when they do go, if they do go. It definitely feels like right now is the time to bring in some fresh blood. So we've got quite a few of the players' futures uncertain, whether they're holding out for a different contract, game time assurances, they want to leave in the summer, whatever it is, things are about to change. But could today be the day that we get some last minute backup players in? Has Stuyton been working absolute magic behind the scenes and not mentioned some random players? You never know. West Ham's actually been probably on Sky Sports, one of the clubs that have been spoken about more, because as we know, there's not that much action usually in January. And deadline day, not always the most active, especially for West Ham. Often a massive disappointment. Could it be today? Who knows? But yes, like I said, it's going to be a big 5 or so months ahead, which will basically determine the future of these players. But could we use today to make some changes to our squad? Remember, Jesse Lingard is still available on a free. I'm only joking, but let us know your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, come on, you Irons.